Welcome to Making the Deal, Frameworks for Transactions, the podcast focused on the lower little market and how to bring transactions to a close. I'm Shawn Rossino.
And I'm Joe Allen. Jumping into this episode, I want to start with a recap of our most recent episodes. The last episode we released was with Sam Frank from Hohauser & Associates. That was a really good episode. Talking about executive search, Sam did a great job talking about how important cultural fit is, even more so than like what's the resume look like. Sure. I mean, the resume is important.
It could make sense, but the personal cultural fit is huge.
Yep, that's what creates such great retention there. Before that one, we had Kevin McCarron on talking about transaction insurances, not just transaction insurances, but also the insurances you need to get to a close of a transaction. So super, super good info in that episode. Really appreciate both those gentlemen joining us on the podcast. I will say, if you have not listened to those episodes, please go back. There's a lot of really good info in there for you.
Yeah,
so
absolutely. No, and feel free to reach out to us if you have a question, or either of those guys. I mean, deep knowledge within their industry, so go-to experts. Today's podcast, we have Matt Dery joining us. We really appreciate you being on with us. Your story is a little bit different, right? You had a career change, a long venture in sports broadcasting, and you're kind of pivoting that into marketing and business development with Financial Architects and the Q5 experience. Matt, thanks for joining us.
Fellas, you have no idea what kind of an honor this is to be here with the both of you. This is, I watch the shows, I listen, so it's great to be here. Love it.
We appreciate you, Matt. We're really excited for what you're going to talk about today, because it's another, similar to the David Hamilton conversation with Kickpoint Ventures, which I know you know David.
Yeah.
It's another episode that talks about the path to the actual transaction, which is something that is just as important as the steps of going through a transaction and how you get to it. So as Shawn mentioned, Matt has a very interesting career path that got him to Q5 and the various. But I mean, look, started in media, radio personality for many, many years, sports radio specifically. Still have a toe in that pond with the Locked On Lions podcast, which we are all avid listeners of.
Tune in.
Looking forward to the draft conversation coming up here.
Oh man, we're hot and heavy into it right now for sure. Love it.
Why don't you tell us how you kind of got to Q5 and doing what you're doing there now?
It is a little bit of a different path for me, because I go to so many events, as you guys know, and I run into people that maybe came out of University of Michigan or Michigan State or wherever with finance degrees or working for family-run businesses that had an opportunity as a VP or starting up in business development, where that's what they studied in college. I went to school for, like you said, Joe, I went to Syracuse for sports. I was on the radio for, I've been here since 96, 13 years at WDFN, 4 years at 97.1 The Ticket, and then 2.5 at Detroit Sports, the now defunct Detroit Sports 105.1, which was an all-out bleep show. But and it got to 2016, guys, and I got to be honest, it was time to do something else. I got contacted by David Locke, who started the Locked On Podcast Network. Right around that time, I got let go in March of 2016. And David's like, we're starting up this Locked On Podcast Network. Do you want to do the Pistons show? We're going to do NFL and NBA in all the cities and get it started. And, you get paid a little bit, but, can you do it from home? I said, of course. You have equipment? Yes. And he said, wait a minute. I said, if I'm doing Pistons, who's doing Lions? And he goes, well, you tell me, you're in Detroit. Give me a suggestion. I said, I love the Pistons, but can I do the Lions show? He's like, yeah, of course. So I ended up, because I had a background with the Pistons, but ended up doing the Lions show. We're still going at it, which has been great. I taught for 3 years at U of D Jesuit High School, speech communications and journalism. Of course, Joe is a proud Cub, so we're fellow Cubs here. But then, it just came about because my wife and I had been clients at Financial Architects, still are. They came to me asking me what I knew about marketing. I said, a lot. Could you help us? The next thing you know, they brought me on, taught me the business. And then a year in, FAI and a few others started Q5, this opportunity to work with business owners that are likely about 3 to 5 years out, don't really know where to start in terms of their exit plan, have no plan, and that's what we help them do. And so they came to me and said, we need branding, logos, who can we work with, and let's get this started, and you get out there and tell people about it. So I'm still doing that. But it is a different venture for me. But I love it because it's a part of what I think I can do pretty well, which is, as you guys are hearing right now, can talk.
Yeah.
So I can get in front of folks and am I an exit planner? Do I know a lot about succession and building enterprise value? No, but I do know people. And if I can get people in front of our team, then I think I've done my job. So that's kind of what I'm doing today.
Yeah, that ability to communicate, I'm sure, goes a long way. I mean, that's what you're trained to do, right?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, and you guys know, you want to work with people that you know, like, and trust. And I think, was I a KLT guy in radio? A lot of times I was not. I had my days in radio where I was not the best teammate. I think now I've learned so much and I've grown up, and my kids are pretty grown now that I've matured, and I realize what it takes to try to get people in front of our team to see if it's a fit for them and for us. And it's been pretty good. I like it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I guess let's talk about Q5 and what that looks like. I was at an event last week and they referred to it as the silver tsunami, the transition of business owners. So that's a hot topic, right? Transition, exit planning, what's next, succession planning. Can you maybe walk us through Q5, what it looks like and how it's different from some of these other firms that are in that space too?
It's interesting, and I think, Shawn, you're so right, and Joe knows, this is what everybody's talking about right now. It's like, another M&A event. Transition planning.
Sure.
And there are some in the industry that say, we do everything when it comes to business succession planning. And what I love when I get out in front of people is when they say, Q5, tell me about that. And then they'll say, well, wait, don't you have a CPA? You have a CPA on your team? No. Well, you have to. I said, do you? I said, do you have on your team a behavioral neuroscience team? And they say, well, what's that? What do you mean? Why would we have that on there? I'm like, same question you're asking me about why would we have a CPA with us, which we have obviously tons of strategic partnerships in that realm.
Sure.
But what I think makes Q5 different, obviously, let's start here, Shawn and Joe, Q5, fifth quarter of your business, but also of your life. This owner is thinking about exiting and getting out. And if they don't have a plan and they're not ready upstairs, meaning, with the brain, and need to have a conversation and talk to somebody, we provide that. John Bell and Danette Bell, husband and wife, kind of behavioral neuroscience team, can work with these owners to kind of get them ready for that next phase. And we kind of like to say, prepare your business to thrive beyond you so you can thrive beyond it. Because what is next? No one knows. But every owner is going to exit. And a lot of them, and Joe knows this, say, get me out of this thing in a year.
Yep.
COVID killed us. The tariff discussion, and I don't want to go there, but all this stuff.
Right.
And it's like, I just want out. If someone wants out in less than a year, it's probably not the fit for us.
Right.
We want to build a relationship where we can help them build transferable value so that in 2 to 3 years, when they are ready, if they're ready, the transaction will be easier for them. So we're kind of an owner readiness company.
I like that. I like that you guys call it that because look, sometimes you don't, even just planning for a succession plan, maybe it's not a sale. Like, who in my family is going to take over this family-owned business? All those kind of things. You guys are getting to the meat and potatoes of that kind of stuff. Right?
Totally.
And that mental mindset that you talked about is that's a big one because there's some ridiculous statistic. It's like 70-some-odd% of owners who sell are
regret it.
Yeah,
right.
Because they weren't ready for it, right?
No.
So mentally not ready.
Sure.
Maybe their business was ready for it, but mentally they weren't ready, and then they're not so happy about it after the fact.
And we could all, and obviously this group that's sitting in this room right now all realizes that there's a way of always collaborating. Mm-hmm. If Shawn has a client that says, hey, Shawn, I'm getting out, but I want this to be fast. And Shawn knows, wait a minute, my client has talked about issues they've had with the leadership team. Maybe they're not as organized. If they took our kind of owner readiness survey or assessment and we could see that there's some cracks we could help fill, Joe, same thing. I know you're dealing with it all the time. I just want out. You may say, talk to Matt Dery. And for us, it's like, we have a client, don't love our banking situation. Of course we would do it. First call I would make would be to Shawn. Hey, we have a major debt problem. No one better in handling that than Joe and his team. I feel like I'm doing a plug for MSA, but it's true. And so that collaborative approach is kind of what we want to do with Q5 in terms of let's set the table so that you're right. Maybe in 2 to 3 years, the owner stays.
Sure.
What if they said, nope, I'm going to Florida. I'm golfing every day. I'm done. All right. Well, then they're 66 on the 14th hole at Doral after the 17th round of golf going, wonder how my baby's doing back home in Birmingham or in Livonia. Well, guess what? It ain't your baby anymore.
Yep.
And it's not doing all that well. And you've gotten texts from your former leadership team because some of them been let go. And you have this void. You have a heart too. And you're thinking, what did I do? Because I miss it. We want to make sure we take that kind of I don't know out of what's next for them to realize that maybe the move is to stay. They're not all going to stay till they're 80 or 90, but at least for the time being, it's a conversation we can have with them.
Sure. Yeah. And that's important because, look, I have clients all the time that the day before closing, a week before closing, they'll be talking about the business with management and still saying we.
Right.
Like, there's not going to be any we moving forward when you when you exit. Like, obviously transition plan, all that kind of stuff, but there is no we after that. Like, they haven't got it through their head that when I get out of bed in the morning, I'm not coming into the same place that I've been coming into for the last 40, 50 years. Like that.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Todd Moylanen, who's a friend of Q5, great former business owner who's local here, was at a Q5 event with us a couple of years ago and was just shaking his head during the event. I barely knew Todd at the time, and now I know him very well from CAM, Construction Association of Michigan. And Todd's like, I just wish I would have known you guys were around, or I wish you guys were around when I was going through this. We hear that a lot. Succession planning, exit planning, transition planning. But owner readiness is so important. And there are some other companies and some other operations. I know BEI, Business Exit Planning Institute, talks about owner readiness a little bit. But do they have that behavioral side? Do they have that piece where it's somebody to talk to, whether you want to call it life coaching or whatever, that can just do that people leg of the stool? We like to always say the financial side with the financial architects team, the business side with Sarah Greifenberger, Arbor Valuation, Chris Messo, strategic business coach from T-Rex. We've got all those things, but that third leg of the stool, the people side, is so important. And a lot of times the owner says, no, I'm good. I don't want to talk to some life coach. Well, no, I think you give it a try.
Yeah.
Give it a shot and see if it's a fit. If not, that's fine. But I think that it's a conversation you want to have.
So, Matt, what does that usually turn out into? Is the end result usually a sale? Is it, hey, maybe our timeline to sell has extended? What is kind of the mix of coming out of your guys' process?
I think we've seen, Shawn, we've run the whole gamut with it. We've seen folks that have stayed on. We've seen folks that have said, I need to speed this up. And others that say, wait a minute, have we been working with them for 3 years? Yeah, because there's so many issues that these owners have, whether it's, I've got a VP that's a buddy of mine. He's great. He and I are great. And then have these conversations with the leadership team and they go, John, the VP, get him out of here.
Right.
He's a problem. And so we are able to kind of navigate them through that and then figure it out. Whether it's then if he goes, then what do? Do we bring in a fractional CFO for a little while to oversee some things? How are the finances? It's been I would say over the last 3 or 4 years, it's been, and I'm on more of the outside because I'm on the beginning part.
Sure.
Our conversations with the team, it's run the full spectrum of differentiating or of different kind of outcomes.
Sure.
We have not gotten one yet that has gone through an ESOP, but we know folks that would handle that. But that's something that I know is getting more popular.
Especially in that construction industry that you were talking about.
Yeah, for sure. And Joe, you brought it up. I mean, the construction industry, we like dipping our toe into that pool because, number one, the folks at CAM are great, so we're a part of that. We're getting in front of construction owners that say, you're right. And this is the most cliche of all cliches, but the old working in the business, but now working on it is true, especially with construction owners and what they're going through now and trying to get labor or parts, lumber, whatever it is, things that are being imported in. And they're working so much on it, they don't realize that you're right. Wait a minute. Why did I have 2 people from the leadership team just leave? What's going on there? Are our meetings, and we'll get to the meso part in a second, but is that running smoothly or not? And they don't want to deal with that right now because they're so into it. But if they're thinking they're about 3 to 5 years out, we'd love to talk to them.
Sure. And those we've sold a lot of businesses in the construction industry or contractor industry, I should say, from electrical to millwork shops.
Yeah.
They are typically unprepared, and the owners that typically tell us, get me out, like just get me out quick.
Right.
Half the time they don't care about the price. Like they don't want to be cheated, but at the same time, it's not a go get me highest price type thing. It's find me somebody who can take this company and carry it on.
Right.
Because I haven't thought about it up to this point. So
And it's interesting too, because we've run into some, I'm going to say, prospects right now that have told me, hey, I want to take your survey. I want to give my dad the survey. I want to give my mom the survey, whatever it is. And these are very difficult conversations to have because, the son and daughter or just the son are going to take it over. That's the plan. But what if they don't want it? And again, John and Danette are pretty good at let's really flush this out and have these conversations, because if the kid's 29 and has always wanted to move to Nashville and get into the music industry, and yet dad has sent him, changed his diapers, sent him to Cranbrook, sent him to U of M, and oh, by the way, got him all sorts of sales training, whether it was with our buddy Chris Druin at Sandler or whatever. There's a free plug for Chris. But then they feel like I've got to do this.
Sure.
But if they don't want to run this steel company or this lumber company, that's not going to end well.
yeah.
So let's have that conversation and make sure that everybody's on the same page from that brain and people mindset, so that mistake is not made. And then mom and dad are out in Arizona realizing, how's Craig doing back in Michigan with our business? Well, number one, again, it's not yours anymore. And number two, if he doesn't want it, what are we doing?
Yeah, right.
We want to work with them and hopefully help them out.
But the exercise of flushing that out is important. And Joe and I talk about all the time is these owners should be doing some of this self-development of sorts, right? Defining what they want and what their leadership team is capable of and who might be the next up, and flushing that out. So I just think there's a ton of value in it. And your process and the team at Q5 gives them the ability to do that.
It does, Shawn. And again, we're not transactional at all. I mean, what was the old Harbaugh phrase at Michigan football? We're not transactional, we're transformational here with the change in college football landscape. We're kind of the same way. I mean, when it comes to the end, we want to throw them to Joe. Like we don't want it. We're not really experts at doing the sale.
Right.
We want to work with them from the beginning. I like to use the baseball analogy sometimes. We want to be the starting pitcher, and then we're not closing the game.
Sure.
We're going to take ourselves out of the seventh inning and hand it over to some experts to get that transaction done. Do we want to make sure their financial room is in order through financial architecture? Absolutely. Do we want to make sure, again, they get a good valuation with Sarah and work maybe on some EOS or Pinnacle stuff with the leadership team with Chris? Of course. But yeah, at the end, that's not what we do.
Okay.
We really believe strongly in getting them ready and then that kind of owner readiness model first and foremost.
Yeah. Okay, so we've set the intention. Like we understand why you're going through this process, right? You're looking at what's coming in the future. Now let's talk about what a typical client looks like for you. So we know contractors, but are there certain industries that you want to focus on? Does it work for everybody? Is there a size? Are there certain issues that you're specifically looking for when you're looking at a prospect?
I mean, I would say, again, I would say the construction industry is really a nice sweet spot for us. It's not just that. It could be manufacturing. Normally, we're talking $5 to $50 million in revenue in terms of a fit for the company. We have worked with some that have been lower, and I think that's okay as well. We would hope that there would be the owner and a leadership team.
Right.
We just had a conversation with someone that kind of told me casually they thought, oh yeah, we have a staff, and then 2-3 conversations later, I'm sitting in a meeting there going, well, blah 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 doesn't really have a staff. I said, well, that's not the conversation I had at the beginning, but maybe I heard wrong. It was a loud room, but a team around them would be something that at least we would want to work with. Current issues they might be dealing with, Joe, it's a good question. I think you're right. A lot of times it's, can I get a valuation? I know what I'm worth. And Sarah's really good at flushing that out. But they've got to have some patience.
Right.
Because if it is somebody that comes to either of you or whomever and says, "Hey, I'm getting out now," probably not the fit for us, and that's okay. Had a lot of those conversations where it's just, I think they have to be willing to have a little bit of patience and wherewithal to go, "Hey, listen, I want to help build that enterprise value or transferable value, and take the time to do it."
Yeah,
that's what I would say to answer your question, Joe.
And there's, that actually brought something up while you were talking. So like they can pick and choose they don't have to use all the services. There's an ability to provide the best outcome for them, right? If they do utilize, every situation is dependent, but utilizing the full package is going to get you the best outcome, but you don't have to use the full.
Correct. And I would say at the beginning, and if my teammates are listening to this, they better. They will realize that at the beginning it was, you're right. What is our Q5 process? It's prepare and build. It's this, and this, and it's the financial leg of the stool. Got to use FAI. Got to use Meso. Got to use, and it's like, hold on a second. What if we come, and we've gotten this a lot. Hey, listen, my financial advisor that I've been working with for 30 years.
Yeah.
I really like her. I really like him.
Mm-hmm.
I think it would have been a mistake for us, and it kind of was at the beginning, but we were learning. It's a startup of saying, of course, you could bring them on. And we're financial architects, very collaborative anyway. But yes, I think that is, an a la carte, if we want to call it that. Yes, for sure. There may be somebody that says, hey, listen, I'm not ready yet to go through your process, but I've got to get a valuation. Why wouldn't we have them in as a center of influence early and have a conversation with Sarah Greifenberger and then moving forward? You're right. They may get to see an opportunity if they're at an event and they meet a Chris Meso and they say, hey, listen, I would love some of that strategic business coaching. I'm going to shy away from the personal stuff. I'm a very private person. But then they realize, man, I just was having a conversation and met that John Bell guy. I would like to talk to him. So we welcome it that way for sure.
Yeah. Okay. So from the client side, what should an owner and a CEO be considering before they do get into an engagement with Q5?
That's a good question. Again, I think they've got to consider opening up a little bit from a personal standpoint. We're not asking them to tell us their entire life story or sit down and talk about every nook and cranny of their marriage. But where are you heading? What are you thinking about? We have a process and a question we like to ask the prospect or the client, which is kind of like the big Q, we call it, which is, you're right. In 3 years, where do you see yourself and how do you see yourself getting there? What's that path that you see? But also, and John and Danette do such a great job of this, it's making them feel comfortable that they can open up. A lot of times, you're right, we'll take them through at the beginning of the process, kind of in a pre-discovery call, and they say, I need the financial part for sure. I need the valuation for sure. Oh, should I do some leadership, strategic coaching, business coaching with your Chris Meso guy? Absolutely. But I don't want to, I'm not diving into neuroscience. I don't need some therapist, they'll say. And it's like, hold on. And then a month, 2 months in, they're going, you know what the best part was? The fact that I could have this personal conversation with somebody and the back and forth. So I think that's something that's important. Kind of embracing that people side because it's not easy. There's plenty. And again, at first you meet John or Danette and you go, or Tom on our team, Tom Riley, and say, wait a minute, these are total strangers. I would say having an open mind to it is not a bad idea.
Yeah.
But we understand too, if it's just, we're doing a pre-discovery engagement, we're telling them about us and them, and it takes some time, that's okay.
And I take it's not all bad stuff you get from that people side. Like people probably think like, oh, they're going to tell me there's something wrong with me or this and that. Like, no. Hey, you're really great at this. It might mean that you need to do this for your succession plan or something.
Exactly.
Right.
Oh yeah. I think there's a lot of positive things that come out of it. Mm-hmm. It's just a matter of making sure that if there are some cracks there to help fill them in and just be there for them for sure.
Kind of, it's almost like needing a second voice, right?
Yeah,
you can hear, yourself. Maybe you haven't really trusted it, but somebody else who's in that world can tell you, hey, this is what I'm hearing you say, and that kind of make that connection.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And again, and a lot of the folks that say, and and it's no knock on any of them, that they do Oh, yeah. We've got an entire department on succession planning and transition planning. I always ask them about that behavioral side. And I just say, hey, where do they go?
Right.
And, they're like, well, that might be too personal for them. Might
Sure.
be, might not be. And if it's not a fit and they say they're not willing to do it, that's okay too. Maybe they'll warm up to it. Maybe they just get evaluation. Maybe they have some conversations with some of our strategic partners. It could lead to it. We'll see, but we offer it for sure. It's important.
That makes sense. Well, from a owner's perspective, it's important to hear kind of what they should keep in mind and think about. We think about some of the professional service providers listening to the podcast. Obviously, we'll use the sports reference. Down the fairway would be, hey, I'm looking at getting out of the business in 3 to 5 years. That's a perfect opportunity. What other trigger points, flash points, conversations that a CPA or an attorney is having with their customer that might come up that say, hey, it's a good idea for me to get you in front of Matt? Is it I'm looking at the future, obviously, or maybe I'm looking at buying a business, maybe I'm looking at adding a new product line. I feel like some of those things might be part of the conversation that you guys can have from a holistic approach. So just curious if there's like 2 or 3 things that you've seen that might make a banker want to get you involved or somebody else in the professional service space.
I just think, Shawn, it's a feel. It's just, if they've been complaining to you or they've been telling you that this has been a rough last few years, and I don't want to turn this into just a negative thing where, go to the Q5 team, they're going to turn it all around and turn the frown upside down and be your therapist. But no, it's a feel of there's something that might not be working. And sometimes too, it's asking them the question, what is working? And then what's not working?
Sure.
And what's not working, can that be fixed, do you think, with the team that you have? I'm not saying we're going to say, all right, we're going to come in and tell you to axe half of your leadership team and replace them. And, we've got the people to do that. Again, strategic partners that we know that we could say, an Adam Casola, for example, excellent recruiter that works a lot in the construction space. But I'm just plugging everybody today. Name dropping. But it's true. The sales thing with Chris, we talked about with Druin, same thing. If you're hearing that there might be an opportunity where they're saying, oh no, because you always get that. It's like, oh my God, my leadership team is great. Everything's great. And you may say to them, Shawn, well, wait a minute. I'm looking at the books a little bit here. How are sales? Oh my God, my sales guys, they're spending 6 hours at lunch. They're, and then you think, well, wait a minute. We would love to talk to them about, hey, some partners that we have that could help. And by the way, take our survey, see if it's a fit to, if you are ready to take that next step. I think those are a few things to kind of answer your question. Yeah.
That makes sense. Mm-hmm. We mentioned this a little bit earlier, but how important are strategic partners to you guys, both your team, but externally as well? Because what we just talked about, people who are going to refer to you or, they have a client that might need some help. I just kind of walk us through what that looks like for you.
I just think that's where there's plenty of things I don't know, but I think what I do know is other people. And I think I've made some good friends, you guys included, and others in the business, in this kind of realm where it's collaborating instead of competition.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And again, when we're trying to recruit and look for advisors at financial architects to come with us, I have the same discussion with them. Why would I leave where I'm at? Why are we even talking? Because it's 2025. It's 2025. Why wouldn't we collaborate and see if it's a fit to have these kind of discussions? No, we do exit planning at, I won't say the name, but a high-end financial operation that is very corporate. And I say, okay, but I would love for you to get in front of our team just to see how different it is. Maybe there's things at your firm that we don't do. Mm-hmm. Maybe we have a client that says, I want an annuity and I want to come to the office and I live in Macomb County, all right, by me, where I live. And our office is in Farmington Hills. And they don't want to drive the hour. Mm-hmm. Maybe I call a Dominic at Ameriprise, Fazzolari, another name drop. That's all we're doing today, fellas.
Name drop. We aren't. You are.
and say, listen, go see. Why wouldn't we all collaborate and work together? And so having that open mind to say, hey, listen, this team at Q5, but let's say there's that advisor at that other firm, they would do the financial part. We would not steal them away.
Right.
Why would we do that? Mm-hmm. But maybe we can help them. That's how I kind of see it now, Shawn, to answer your question. Like, it's 2025. Let's see if there's a way that we could all work together. Now, there are some things that, you're right, that it's impossible to do.
Yeah.
But I think for the most part, having that conversation, again, the know, like, and trust is huge.
Yeah. And look, we joke about the name drops, but but it really does show. Like you're talking about partners that you've been able to send over to other people or send clients to, because look, the ultimate goal of any of these processes is the best outcome for the client, right? And if they do need a sales coach or they do need a different advisor because you guys aren't able to service them, they do need a CPA, they do need any of these things. It's so important. And that's why we've been bringing a lot of these professionals on, because getting that understanding out to A, the service providers, but B, the business owners, in terms of understanding what's even available, who can help you, who can solve the problems that you didn't expect to come, or what problems might be coming down the pipe as you do go through a transaction. Super, super important.
And I just think having that lens as your baseline is going to get you so much further, right? The willingness to work with others, the willingness to talk to others. It's not just, hey, this is my swim lane, no communication with anybody outside of it. Kind of limits your upside, really. So having that lens is natural to have, or good to have naturally, but let alone from a business perspective, it just helps.
And I get too why people are protective of their turf. I understand that completely.
Sure.
But having these conversations about, hey, listen, this is a chance to maybe get in front of a team that can help. And again, maybe it's not a fit for them, but at least we have that conversation. Maybe it's not a fit for us, but at least we're talking and seeing if we can assist in any of those kind of realms. And again, that's what I've loved about the last 2.5 years. I've learned enough talking about me and our process. Let's just see if it's a fit. And have that trustworthy relationship, and then go from there.
Right.
And I've enjoyed it. I'm enjoying getting in front of people. And like you guys said, this is a hot button topic now, where people are starting to think about their exit strategy.
Yep. One member of your team that we haven't touched on yet, I think you briefly mentioned him, but your strategic business coach, Chris Messo.
Yeah.
I have a ton of respect for Chris Messo. I know a lot of people who have a ton of respect for Chris Messo. I know he's got a panel coming up for ACG Detroit here soon, talking about kind of the process of going through a sale or being prepared for a sale. How key is he to your process? And in terms of when you're going out to one of these business owners that maybe are probably a little bit further out from an exit than that nearer term, that 2 to 3 year, you're probably like 3 to 5, sure, also in between. But how key is he in terms of those conversations?
Oh, it's huge. I mean, anytime that you can have a conversation with somebody and say, somebody on our team has been through what you're going through right now. Because they'll say, hey, listen, Chris Cousins and Pat Marody at Financial Architects had a great conversation with them. And actually, Chris and Pat bought the firm from Ken Grace and Turner Thompson. And Ken's the founder of the company. So they've been through that buying process. Those two guys haven't been through the sale. Messo has. So Chris comes from this background of mobile air. He owned this heating and cooling company that was mobile, that, like, for example, when they built Little Caesars Arena, they went to Mobile Air and said, all right, we're going to be working in the cold weather. We got to heat the building, but obviously the building hasn't been built yet. And Chris went through it, but he's been through the process. And he didn't have a Q5 back then to guide him to where at the end, when he was up north years later, after he sold the company, bought it back, sold it again, then went up north, and his attorney friend, Kevin, came up to him and saw him up north. I think they were up there in the summertime at his cottage, and looked at him and said, oh my gosh, you're not, how's it going up here? And I'm great. And Laura, Chris's wife's probably going, no, he's not. He missed the action.
Yeah.
Sure.
And so to have somebody on the team that has been through it, to look them in the eye and say, yes, you had conversations with John and Danette. I know you met Matt at the beginning, but hey, man, I've been through it. Or hey, you've been through it too. Or I've been through it too. We don't want them to go through what Chris went through, which was, I got to get back into the business world. He's in his early 60s. He went back and started T-Rex Advisory, did EOS, now Pinnacle, and he's loving that he's being able to work, still can travel, still can do his thing,
yep.
And be a part of the Q5 team as well. So that's huge, Joe, to answer your question.
Yeah.
It's like he's been there.
Right.
But I love that he's been on both sides of the table. So like you just said, he sold the company, bought it back, and then sold it again.
Exactly.
And didn't he even stick on with private equity for a while in,
I think
in terms
so.
of
Yeah.
like helping them acquire more? So
Yeah.
like super unique
Right.
background and the ability to talk about both sides of those transactions is a really big deal because they're similar but different. Like
Totally.
you're providing the same information, but how you read that information versus how you supply that information are
There's
two
difference, right?
very different things.
Fellas, why are the Lions doing so well, right? The Lions have talent, but these guys listen to these coaches, assistant coaches, who've all played.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
All right, now we could do a whole Ben Johnson routine and fire Joe up about
Don't get me started.
Benedict Johnson in Chicago, but at least he was around football for a long time. But a lot of these guys, the Antoine Randall L's, the Scotty Montgomerys, Hank Fraley's, the offensive line, yes, these guys are talented, all right? Ragnow, Sewell, and now we're breaking it down. This is like Lockdown Joe and Shawn. But in all honesty, they respected the people that have been there. Hank Fraley played 10 years in the league or whatever, as offensive line. So Meso played. He was there. So for him to have these conversations, go, I know what you've been through. I was up at my cottage, and tell that story
Right.
is pretty soothing for them, knowing that, all right, somebody on their team has played the game.
By the way, I just saw the annual coaches photo.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Good God, does Dan Campbell stand out like a sore thumb? He's such a
He's
monster.
a big man. He is a big man.
I love it. Absolutely love it. Briefly, let's talk about how FAI works into this because we haven't talked about that yet. Obviously being prepared from the financial side for the effects of the sale and all that kind of stuff. Can you touch on some of that? Mm-hmm. Making sure that you've got your tax planning. I'm sure you guys work with a lot of estate attorneys, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, financial architects has been around. It'll be 40 years this winter. So it's been a game changer for my wife and I. Like I said, being a sports radio guy and being on the air, I knew nothing about when I got remarried in 2011, what to do with our finances. Did I have enough life insurance? What did I know about that? Oh, I had a life insurance policy through the radio station. And my wife brought up a great point, flying back from Vegas. What if you get hit by a bus tomorrow? What are we taking care of? Am I taking care of? Vice versa. And having that first early conversation with Turner Thompson, being introduced to him, and then moving over to Pat Marody was a game changer for my wife and I in terms of. But again, it's not, all right, it's just product-based. Financial architecture is a process similar to Q5 where we're taking a look at everything and coordinating and integrating all of our money decisions so that we're comfortable. And so that is where that comes in for the owner that is thinking about, all right, yeah, I got a financial guy I've worked with for 30 years. I'm not going to change. Well, wait a minute. We're not going to push them. But why don't you talk to Pat or Chris and just see our process and see how financial architecture is different. A lot of times I'll talk to folks and say, you got an advisor? And they'll say, oh, yeah, same guy for 25 years. I go, do you have a financial architect? And they always say no. I say, why don't you have a conversation, just even 30 minutes on Zoom or Teams, just to see what we're all about. We have multiple clients that have advisors elsewhere, but also work with us. So that, Joe, and I'm glad you asked about it, is kind of how it works. So that, yes, those money decisions that they're making, they have a good peace of mind. It's a little bit of a different process that we have, but it's kind of like I said, coordination and integration of all those decisions kind of put in one.
But see, I find it so important because sometimes you're going to have these clients that don't know. They don't know what the exit plan is. Whether
they don't know what they don't know.
Whether they're giving it to their kids or they're selling to a financial buyer or private equity or something like that. There's different plans financial plans you're going to put together for that kind of stuff.
Yes.
So
absolutely.
tying that all in together. Look, it's a very well thought out process.
Right.
I have to say.
Thank you.
And it's look, I sell privately held businesses, and the owners. There's basically three areas that I have the most ability to make referrals to people. It's the CPA, it's the attorney, and it's financial advisors. Like those are the people that my clients do not know who to go to.
Right.
Sure.
They might have a general practitioner attorney. Their CPA might be too small. for where they are. And then on the financial advisory side, you talked about, I've been with my financial advisor for 30 years. That advisor might have worked when you had $1 million or $2 million. When you're coming into a situation where you're walking away with $5, $10, $15, $20 million, that advisor, especially if they're a single shingle, may not be able to handle your needs.
Support, service.
Yeah. So putting that all together is so important.
It is, and I think that you want them to have that financial peace of mind, and vital that they are just in a good headspace when it comes to, like you said, this pile of money that's about to come in. What am I doing with it? And maybe not necessarily just talking about, oh, we're putting it in this product, this, and this. Like I said, we do life insurance. We do talk about, our portfolio management team is excellent. And you want to also have that good customer service in the background, whether it's our financial designer team that's kind of like paraplanners, we call them, and then our CRCs, our client relations coordinators, who are just making those calls, hey, making sure the DocuSign went through, hey, how are you doing? Hey, happy birthday to the daughter or son, whatever it is. We want to have that. We want to give them that kind of customer service that they deserve, for sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that makes sense. Well, thanks for sharing a little bit about that. I'm glad we got into that.
Yeah.
I guess I always zoom out and say, hey, what did we just talk about? And can you give me 3 or 4 things? One thing I heard, then I'll steal one of yours, is be open to conversation. It sounds like that's a huge part of the Q5 experience. But are there any other things you want to highlight for us as we look back on the conversation?
I just think, and guys, I appreciate you having me on, kind of this integrated advisory model, unlike firms that are focused solely on valuation, finance, or consulting. I'd say Q5 kind of brings together, 5 almost synergistic disciplines under one experience. Obviously, the people side, the financial side, the business valuation, strategic advisory, and then trusted affiliates too, you two and others that, hey, if there's something that we don't know, we're going to pass it on to the people that do. Mm-hmm. I've talked to a couple of people sometimes say, oh yeah, the CPA. Oh, we've got a guy that's got a SEPA that's on the team. Oh, nice. Okay, yeah, SEPA, great. I mean, not saying you could just go out to the vending machine and grab it, but all right, do you know what that even means? Oh, my advisor has a SEPA. Okay, which, you're a certified exit planning advisor. Did I get that right? But what have they done with it? What are some of the benchmarks that they do? Well, they just said they're a SEPA. We want to pass people along to good folks to help them and make sure that they are, when they do decide to make that decision at the end, that they're happy with it, and that they're not, as Joe said before, into that 75% group that regrets the decision that they made.
Now, you mentioned construction industry. You both did as ripe for opportunity. Are there any other industries that come to mind that are kind of people you should be in front of, or is that?
I would say we talked about manufacturing a little bit. Privately held companies, I think, are another good one. It's interesting. I've had a couple people in the restaurant business talk to me recently. I'm not sure that's the greatest fit for us. That is highly volatile. I think Joe knows that. Mm-hmm. So maybe not the greatest fit. And again, I'd like to see somebody that has the patience. And again, it can be a younger owner too that is saying, I'm ready to transition out, but do something else.
Right.
Yeah. Love that. Would love to, some people say, oh, your clients are all in their 70s. Not necessarily.
So service companies, distribution companies, B2B, B2C, doesn't really matter. Like the process applies across the board.
I think it does. Oh yeah. And I think also we've had one client recently just wanted to talk to John and Danette and just said, listen, I don't think I'm ready to exit yet. I don't think I'm ready to transition, but I'm really intrigued by this people readiness question. So can we just do that through the Empowering Futures team? That's John and Danette. Absolutely, you can. Yeah, for sure.
Awesome.
That's great.
Well, I usually like to wrap up. Joe and I will talk about some hot topics for the week, but since we have the guest on, I want to run in my fantasy football league. I have the number 1 rookie draft pick.
Ooh.
Is it a home run for Ashton Genty, or do you have any other recommendations?
Well,
I don't want to steal
but he's the running back.
He
That's
is.
what you want.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
I don't know if Travis Hunter's going to be a receiver. That's the thing.
Right.
If he's going to be a corner and play some receiver like on third down, then you wouldn't want to draft him. But
Right.
yeah, Ashton's pretty good.
Okay. Kind of a can't miss opportunity then. All right.
That's geeking out, Shawn.
Yeah, I know.
A rookie draft?
It's a rookie draft, so you can kind of secure yourself
gosh.
a quality player early on in the process. But it sounds like Ashton's the move.
Yeah. But what if you don't
just
get
don't
him?
let him go to Chicago.
That's right. Oh, that's right. That's
Yeah,
true.
That's true.
The Judkins kid at Ohio State, I'm a fan of.
Okay.
I don't think he touched the ball enough in college.
Yeah,
I mean, he was
did.
only there
He
for
had
a
to
year,
split,
but
right.
yeah.
Right.
Wow. I didn't think that's where that's not on the list.
I
That's not on
didn't
the
prep
show
you for
sheet.
that one. I had to surprise you with one. But
I love that.
Joe and I always end the podcast with a recommendation for a business establishment that you have coffee at, breakfast at, lunch at, dinner at, happy hour, some way you celebrate or you connect with some of those strategic partners we discussed.
All right. So I've been thinking a lot about this. I think you both know where I'm going, but I would say there's two. Good success, and I've enjoyed the experience for lunch at Market North End.
I knew it.
In Birmingham. Now, that chicken spaghettini, whatever that is with the pesto, is unreal. You also run into the man that has made that place famous, Fadi Sadik, for the house that Fadi built, as I like to say, for Mid-States Advisors. And also, and you come on, you knew I'm going with this. Fogo de Shawn is so good in Troy. Now, some people are going to say, no, wait a minute. Why would you? That's high-end steak and the whole thing with the meats. And when you get the meat sweats and by 2:00 you're so full, the rest of your day is done. No, Fogo has the market table where you can just get the salad. You can just there's bacon there. There's the soup and the rice. Shout out to Michelle Choice, who's there, who takes great care of us. I would say Fogo is
Okay.
I enjoy taking people there because I think they're surprised that you can just do market table for $18 and not have to get all of the different meats that come across. But then when they walk around with the skewers and all of that, or whatever, I forget the name of what they call it, but
Churrascura, I think it's called.
It's phenomenal. So
I don't know how I didn't realize that those were what
You
you were
knew
going to bring.
those were
I should have known.
yeah, exactly.
At this point.
Good
no,
spots.
those are
good
great
spots.
great ads.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. And first for Fogo. We haven't had Fogo.
Yeah.
On the list, so
Market's been hit.
I think
but
I think the last 2 or 3 times I've been there, I've seen you there.
I'm sure.
So
or Fadi, one of the two.
Every time.
Well, that's one of the places. There's a few of those in town that Joe and I talk about. You're essentially having multiple business meetings when you go in for one because you shake hands with other people just who are there as well for lunch or happy hour or whatnot. So
Yep.
It's a good spot. But thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We are on all platforms, LinkedIn, YouTube, Spotify, Apple, a little bit of TikTok action too. So please check it out. Yep. And
I'm following.
And
so's my wife, who's on TikTok all day. So
well, thank you for joining us, Matt. We really appreciate you being on
thank you
with
guys
us.
so much.
If anybody has any questions about Q5 or FAI, please connect with Matt. Or let Joe or I know. We'll put you in contact too. But thank you, Matt. I appreciate it. Thanks for
fellas.
joining us.
Guys, appreciate you having me. Matt Dery, Q5 experience, working with business owners that are 3 to 5 years out. A lot of them don't have a plan, aren't really sure where to begin and where to start. That's really what we help them do with Q5. We want to prepare your business to thrive beyond you so you can thrive beyond it. It's not necessarily exit planning or transition planning on our end. It's an owner readiness company that has a behavioral neuroscience piece to it with a husband and wife behavioral team that are fantastic to talk to that really works on the people side to help these owners out so that they're ready to make that next step.
Yeah. This is Making the Deal, Frameworks for Transactions. I'm Joe Allen.
And I'm Shawn Racino.